Hey, welcome back. This is James Smitty speaking. I want to do a little follow-up. I did a video, when was it? I think yesterday or the day before, and what it was about is getting more traffic for your podcast by using something called a podcast schema when you're using the Rankmath plugin. And I want to share something because one of the questions that came up was, I'm using a plugin for my podcast. Do I still need to use the Rankmath podcast schema? So let's take a look at that. On this particular site here, if I just scroll down a bit, you can see we've got a featured, this is in WordPress. I have a podcast selling courses online, and then this is just a regular podcast directly on the site. You can see I have a featured image, and then we've actually got the podcast that is there. It's on the page. I've got the option to download the file, play in a new window, the duration when it was recorded, and I actually have a transcription of it. But this is a podcast page, and I'm going to show you some of the things that you can do for the SEO or get more traffic for your podcast as it relates to on your website. Here's the first thing. What I showed you before is I'll go to the dashboard. Let's actually edit this episode. And it's interesting because it says episode. The last time I did this, it showed post. And I'll show you that in a while. Show that to you, in a second. So I'm taking a look at this. You can see the post. And if you look at it, you'll see and go, well, where's the podcast? Where's the audio file? And if we scroll down to the bottom, the very bottom of this, and that's where it is on this particular page, you'll see that I have some options here, which is the podcast episode details. This is because I have a podcast plugin called Seriously Simple Podcast, and it's with a company called Castos, which does the hosting of the podcast. So I installed a plugin on my WordPress site, and it does a couple of things. One of them is that it basically controls the episode file so you can see where it's downloaded. I've got my image for the podcast series, but you see the durations there, the file size, the date it was recorded. A lot of this information came from the plugin, and it is automatically creating the schema for podcasting. And the previous one I showed you is we went to this Rankmath settings, and I showed you that there was a thing here for creating schema and a schema generator, and I said, hey, you got to make sure that the podcasting one is on. And there's a podcasting one that is normally on, but you see, where is it? It's not here, is it? And the reason it's not is because the plugin that I have supersedes or takes over from Rankmath in this case. So here's the net of it. If you are going to do a podcast on a regular basis, you want to optimize it with SEO, you generally are going to be using a plugin to do that. And the one that I recommend is Rankmath. The other popular one is Yoast. So we have these two plugins that are great for SEO optimization on your WordPress site. And for some of the settings, if you're not using any other services, the idea here is to use that schema that's specific to it so that Google knows exactly what the podcast is about. And in fact, it's a podcast with an audio file, a date, an episode number, all of those things that we were adding to the schema when we weren't using an additional plugin. But in this case, I don't need it because I've got a plugin, and I'll show it to you now. Hopefully we'll get back to the admin page here. I'm going to go to plugins. And actually, here's the settings here. So I've got all episodes, new episodes, podcast settings, and options. And where this actually shows up and where this is from, if I go to my plugins and I take a look at them, you'll see. Come on, open up for me. You'll see I have the plugin, and I'll put the link below for you so that you have it. I have the plugin, which is Seriously Simple. There we are. Seriously Simple Podcasting. So this is from Castos. I'll put it in for you. But this takes care of everything when it comes to SEO optimization of the schema. You're still going to have to use things like the regular Rankmath settings, which are things like making sure that you have proper titles, that you're using H1 and H2 tags, that you have a keyword you're structured for. But in terms of the schema that I introduced in the last video, you don't have to worry about it when you're using a plugin like this. Okay, so pay attention. If you have podcasts, you have episodes, make sure that you're giving yourself all the opportunities in the world to create the most effective or most optimized content for your site. So, hope you enjoyed this. This is James Maduke speaking. We've got a bunch more. Where this came from, we've got hundreds of video tutorials for anyone wanting to start, build, and grow an education business with their own training site, their own online courses. So, take care. Let's expect the best.